Welcome to the Generation Elevation podcast, a conscious, connected platform for those who are ready to manifest their dream life. I'm your host, Elise Riley, a former PT, now motivational speaker, igniting empowerment and transformation all across the globe. Here at Generation Elevation, we are committed to bringing you the most inspiring guests who will share their stories, wisdom, and advice to help you progress closer to living a life of your own terms. What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Generation Elevation. Today, I am joined with a very special guest from the other side of the world. Now, when I mean that, I mean back in Australia, which is kind of weird to say now being here in London. However, I met this guest through Olivia Ward. And if you guys haven't listened to that episode yet, I definitely recommend going back and listening to this because it's about how to get your greatest return on investment for life. And there was like, after that episode, you need to speak to my mentor. You need to speak to this guy because he is so in alignment to your show and what you speak about here. So this incredible human, he is a business consultant, and I'm going to get him to introduce himself because he's done some incredible things in his business, in life. So I can't wait for him to share with you what he has done. But it's essentially all about helping people create a business that they love. So with that said, it is my pleasure to introduce you to you today, Mr. Ryan Drake. How are you, Ryan?
Elise, I'm so good. I'm really glad to be here and just to be a guest. And Olivia is a dear friend of mine. And she was buzzing after her conversation with you. She's like, Ryan, you need to be my friend. And we just hit it off, right? Such good energy. So I'm stoked to be here.
Yeah, I truly believe like your vibe attracts your tribe, and the people that you meet in life, there is no mistake. Like the fact that Olive was like, you need to speak to Ryan. I was like, okay, I'm going to find out who this guy is, what he's about, because if Liv said that and I vibe with her, I definitely knew that we were going to vibe together as well. So it's an awesome pleasure to have you here today. And I'm excited because I know that you have a lot of special gifts to share that my audience, I know, will really appreciate. So with that said, Ryan, for my audience and listeners that may potentially have no idea who you are,
cool.
Who are you?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, what a hard question to answer, because who you are as a person and what you do are two very different things, right? So when someone asks who are you? It's like, oh, I'm an observer of my reality. I'm just like this meat skin swirling on this ball, or maybe flat plane, depending on which way you look at the world. But in terms of what I do, and I guess why I'm here, I'm a business consultant, like you said. I've worked with close to 400 business owners now over the last 3 to 4 years, grow and scale their businesses, taken a bunch of clients to well into the 6 figures, and then scaled a couple of businesses to $1 million and beyond in revenue in a very short period of time. But fundamentally, what I really love is seeing people build a business and life that they absolutely love. And so I really like to look at things in terms of peace and profit. So how can we amplify the peace that you feel in your business and make sure that your business is profitable? And sometimes that actually doesn't mean that you need more money, although we think that it is. It's really about getting those two things in alignment, because someone could be really, really happy with a $250,000 a year business that is thriving with no team, low overhead. You could live anywhere in the world and work from your laptop, which is amazing. And then other clients, they want to build companies. They want to have legacy. They want to create multiple millions. And so understanding yourself, and I think that's what, your whole podcast is about too, in terms of knowing yourself, and then as a result, designing your business to reflect the life you want to live.
I love that so much. And I'm really curious if you could summarize in short, maybe give us 3 key moments for you that guided you or shaped you or led you to do what you do now, what would those moments be?
Ooh, great question. It's so funny because I think so often life comes full circle a little bit, right? You have these dreams as a kid, and then you have realizations as you get older, and then things kind of come back, and you're reminded of those things. So probably one pivotal moment that I've had in my life that I can remember is I was born in Papua New Guinea, which is actually Australia's closest neighboring country. So my mum's from there and my dad's from the UK, but I was born in Papua New Guinea. And I remember going to visit my auntie with my mum for a weekend. So we flew up. It was just my mum and I. We were visiting my auntie, and my auntie and my mum were in the house, and I was outside with my cousins. And we were just playing in the field. It was grass, it was hot. But I distinctly remember my cousins like fastening this slingshot. So they were just like sharpening down a slingshot. You can imagine it, just a little Y. And they used a knife to split a rubber band in half. They tied it together. They picked up a rock off the ground and they shot two pigeons above. And it's like, oh, that's interesting. They shot two pigeons. Good shot, like good aim. And we take the pigeons back into the house. And I distinctly remember that my auntie cooked up these pigeons for us. And it was my cousins and myself eating lunch, but my mum and my auntie went without. And I didn't know it at the time until many, many years later that was poverty, but actually there was no other food in the house. And so when I learnt about this, I resolved that for me, business was always going to be a vehicle to generate wealth so that I could give back in whatever capacity. So I was a little like social justice warrior in high school and signed up for all sorts of things and did work with Oxfam and Salvation Army and was a World Vision ambassador for a while. And so for me, giving back and like using business as a force of good in the world, I think so powerful. And then goodness, Elise, did you ever play a game called Neopets when you were younger?
Oh, I am a 2000 baby. However, I've heard of it.
You've
Can't say
heard of
I've played it.
Neopets? Okay, so I'm a couple of years older than you, but I loved Neopets. Neopets was like the Facebook before Facebook for virtual animals. And so you had these like virtual animals that you would take care of. And you would feed them, kind of like Tamagotchis or Digimons, any of that sort of thing. And at the time, Neopets was like the number one website in the world. But on that website, I learned to code. And then I didn't know that that was a thing. And all these things were just by accident. Like I grew up listening to Tony Robbins because my dad played Tony Robbins in the car. Didn't know life coaching was a thing. I kind of fell into it by accident. And I think, even this friendship, serendipitous, right? And it was connection because of a mutual friend, because it was aligned. I'm like, so many things in my life have just fallen into place magically. I couldn't pinpoint specific things. And yeah, I just trust that everything kind of aligns. Steve Jobs said, you can only connect the dots backwards. You can't connect them looking forward. So we're here.
Yeah, wow. And so with giving back, like you said, being able to generate wealth for yourself allows you to give back.
Mhm.
What maybe like an example could you give that was like what a pivotal moment for you where you were able to really give back?
Yeah, I mean, there are so many. I really believe in karma. I really believe in you always get back more than what you reap way more than what you sow. So what that looks like for me is I have run events at a loss before because I've covered ticket sales for people to be in a room because I knew that it was going to change their life. I have left millions of dollars on the table because for me to charge sometimes for those things, I'm like, this person, they take this program, they run with it, it's going to transform their life. They can pay me in 6 months' time. I don't actually care. In a previous business, we sponsored 13 surgeries, life-changing surgeries for children in developing countries to get tumors removed, eyesight, all sorts of different things. And we have photos of those people that we impacted that I'll never ever meet. And then in my business, we have giving back built into everything we do. So every time a client posts a win, every time I run an event or a Zoom call, and clients are like, yo, we use a hashtag called kaboom, which is like, fist bump or boom. Every
Yeah.
time they use that in the chat, we make a micro donation. And so over the last 2 years, we've impacted 150,000 people through the business with giving back, providing water, food, planting trees, providing education to projects around the globe.
Wow, that is amazing. Congratulations. That is like such an amazing achievement.
Thank you.
Like,
Something I'm really proud of.
I'm curious then, Ryan. Like, I know a lot of people listening to wanting to start a business potentially or
Mhm.
go off into their own sort of venture. Keeping in mind like these are the types of people listening, what would be your advice through those different growth phases? So let's start with like potentially the
Mhm.
people that are starting off. Like, what would be your
Yep.
advice for them in regards to setting a solid foundation that can sustain them long term rather than like coming back to that work life balance where they can work,
Cool.
create a life where they're working to live? Yeah.
Spot on. Got it. And I know this really well because I think so many entrepreneurs are often stuck at the first level. And I call the first level startup phase. Startup phase for me, I define as you're trying to make your first $100,000 cash in your business. If I gave startup phase a color, it would be red. I believe the startup phase is the most dangerous spot to be in and to operate from. And so what I often say to people is if you choose to start your business, a couple of things you want to make known to yourself first and foremost. Number one, it's way harder than you think it is. And number two, it's going to take longer than you think sometimes, not always. And there's always exceptions to the rule. But I think I've spoken to so many people who start their business on the side of working full time and they think, I'm going to make $100,000 in 3 months. I'm like, you have worked in your corporate life for 15 years. It's not the same. You have not given your business enough time to grow. And there's a lot of skills that you have to learn, especially if you're coming from an employee style or you're coming from, say, you're graduating university. Well, up until that point, you have studied and been spoon-fed information your entire life. Entrepreneurship, there's a million ways to make $1 million. And what I say to people starting their business is you just have to like put the blinders on and make your first $100,000 as fast as you can. You don't need systems. You don't need everything in place. You don't need a website. Man, I spend so much time trying to like color, coordinate, make things look pretty. I'm like, you don't actually need all of that. You need something that you can sell, be that a product or a service that you're really, really passionate about and you can deliver on. And the faster you can get clear on what it is you're providing value around, the easier your life becomes. But this conversation, just pulling it up, there's this quote that I posted in my group today to clients. So it says this: 0 to 100K, it pays to be dumb. Minimal thinking, just action taking. 100K to $1 million plus, it pays to be smart. More thinking and strategizing. This is where you start to delegate and add in systems. The problem is you're approaching the 0 to 100K like a smart guy when you should be executing like a dumb guy.
I love that.
That's honestly my advice is like get out of the 100K because if you're not clearing that in your business, the 9 to 5 pull is still going to be really strong. And if you take your sweet ass time, motivation wanes a little bit because life will slap you in the face. And if you don't have a really strong resolve or like a strong why do you do what you do, what gets you out of bed in the morning, it's really easy to be thrown off course.
Yeah, for sure. And so, what would be your advice for people that potentially have been stuck in that red phase for a while, that 0 to 100, and maybe they just keep coming up with challenges, blocks, barriers? They're feeling that
Mm-hmm.
motivation drain. What would be
Yep.
your advice for those people, like that the listeners can use or take away some like
Yep.
prompts that they can reflect on to take away from today and really just go, okay, is this what I need to do or do I keep going?
Yeah, I think the biggest trap is what I call SOS in the startup phase. Do you know what SOS is?
Mm-mm.
You smiled. Shiny object syndrome. And so, how do you distract someone who's going to build a business? You just distract them with a lot of different ideas, a lot of different input, a lot of different stuff. So, what I see happen is people are then course junkies. They jump coach to coach, podcast to podcast, book to book. They consume all the free shit and the YouTube videos. They don't want to pay for mentorship because they think that they've got time and that they're going to save money by investing their time, when in fact, time is probably the hardest resource that you have, right? It's the most valuable resource. And you can invest money to gain back your time always. So pay for mentorship. Go and speak to Elise about high performance, right? How to operationally show up better in life. And if you have been kind of like being on the slow grind in your business for like a while, maybe you're like stuck at the same revenue goal for a little while per month, I would tell you to get a bigger vision, right? Find something that is so compelling that gets you out of bed in the morning. So for me, my 40-year vision dropped in January 2017 in a meditation 2 days before I ran my first event. It was like, Ryan, 100 million people impacted over 40 years. I have zero time to waste and to mope and to be sorry for why someone won't buy from me or why someone won't buy my course or won't show up. I'm like, I don't care. I got another person to serve or help.
Yeah.
The vision's compelling.
Yeah, that is extremely powerful. And I know that there's so many people out there that might be listening to this who feel lost, who might not know what their vision is, who might be anxious thinking, well, yeah, I want to create this business, but I don't know what gets me up in the morning. I don't know what I love. What would be your advice to them?
Yeah. So often, if people genuinely come to a conversation with me and they don't know something, I ask them first, do you not know, or have you not spent time thinking about it? Because sometimes we actually haven't spent time thinking about what gets us up, what lights our soul on fire, what happens when you get around the right person. So when someone's around you, Elise, and you start talking about the shit that you're passionate about, your eyes get a little bit bigger and the flame in your eyes kind of like dance a little bit. And I like to say, like, what gets people's bones on fire? And if you don't know what that is for yourself, it's likely that you've got so many inputs that you don't know how to filter out the signal from the noise. Well, how do you get in touch with the signal? You got to spend time with yourself. If you look at any great historical figure, Martin Luther King, Gandhi, Buddha, Jesus, Rumi, all of these figures spent insane amounts of time with themselves. They led movements, but they knew themselves intimately. And I think sometimes the best thing you can do to get a stronger connection is to turn off your internet connection, right?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
always like to
you,
say, like, to my clients, if they don't know, it's like, do you not know? Or like, are you just using, I don't know, as a cop out? Like, for example, like, I don't know, or what would happen if you did know?
absolutely. And I think one distinction that I like to make with clients on a call as well is if I can see them in their head or their heart. So if a client comes to me and they're talking directly from their head and they articulate their goal and their vision in the same monotone that they talk about everything else, I'm like, whoa, 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 stop, stop, stop. You're talking to me from your head. I'm not connected to what it is you're saying. And then I'll get them on the call. Literally, the rest of our coaching call will be them closed eye exercise, them breathing, connecting in with their stomach, centering their breath. Cool. Talk to me from that place of power. Now tell me, where does that come from? Why do you want to feel that way? Why is that important? And they can distinguish. And then you've got this massive physiological shift in their state where they're now in their power and they're more connected to what they're talking about. Fantastic. Go and share your message from that place.
Can we do a process right now? Like, if
Sure.
there's people that are listening, right? If you're driving, don't close your eyes. But if you're just tinkering around, just take a minute, sit down, stop what you're doing. Ryan, I'd love for you to guide the listeners through like 5 minute max process that
Beautiful.
gets them into their heart.
Can I do that with you?
Of course you can do it
I'll
with
use you
me.
as an
Go for it.
example. Beautiful.
Yeah, let's use me. Go.
Okay. So, Elise, is there something that you would like to anchor more into? Is there something you're calling forward, something you're wanting to step into in life right now that feels a little bit out of reach?
Hmm. It feels like I explained to you before we got on this call, I'm definitely going through that growing pains where at the
Uh-huh.
start, like I've very much leaving behind or moving into like the end of that red phase
Yep.
into this like middle.
Yep.
And for me, it's about utilizing my time and making sure that I stay heart led on my mission. So for me, it's about allowing myself to be seen by more people.
Okay, beautiful. And what feels out of reach? So as you're stepping into this, what still feels far away?
For me, what feels far away is like the vision of thousands of people coming to my events
Okay,
and what coming to travel to see me speak. That feels far away.
beautiful. Awesome. Okay.
Having my business as like a company where it
Yep.
runs itself feels far away.
Okay, beautiful. All right. So what I'm going to get you to do is just close your eyes and I'm going to get you to place your right hand on your stomach
Mhm,
and we're going to just take a couple of deep breaths into this
mhm.
moment. And so, Elise or anyone listening at home, wherever you are, I just want you to become present with your current state, to soften and slow your breath. And where you might have placed your right hand on your stomach, we're just going to deepen the breath into that sacral chakra. So allow your belly to expand as you breathe deeper in. And as you're breathing deeper, allowing your shoulders to melt. If you're sitting in a chair, allowing your feet to connect in with the floor. We're just bringing deep awareness to your body. And as your breath softens and slows, it's almost allowing yourself to connect in with that heartbeat. Allowing your eyelids to become heavy. Just your body to feel comfortable wherever you are. If you're seated, melting into the seat. If you're lying on the floor, your body pressing against the floor. If you're standing up, just allowing yourself kind of just to melt a little bit. Now, Elise, what I'm going to get you to do is to bring that image of you standing on stage in front of thousands just to the center of your mind. Where are you? What stage are you standing on? What event have you just launched? And you can
It's like,
see,
do I say it?
yeah.
For me, I can see myself in like a almost like an auditorium, like a dance concert type of stage, like
Hmm.
where like a big Taylor Swift kind of stage, for lack of, I don't know who else kind of stands on a stage like that, but like
Beautiful.
Beyonce or whatever, where it's like the pyrotechnics, there's like hundreds of thousands of people there, and I'm like
Uh-huh.
emotional.
Okay, beautiful. So I want you to bring that image just to the center of your mind. We can look out and you're starting to see hands in the air, people screaming, people clapping, people cheering you on. And just in your mind's eye right now, I'm going to ask you to take a step forward. Take a step forward on that stage, almost like there's a magnification, there's an amplification of this stadium. You're one step closer to the noise, to the center of the stage. Lights are on. And just as you're imagining this, I want you to breathe that right in, just again deeper into that sacral chakra, into that center point, to that center of gravity that you have. And I want you to imagine in this moment what you're starting to hear around you. How loud is the stadium? How excited are people there? Imagine for a moment who you can see, what you can see. Maybe you can glance over at your family, your friends in the front row. They've got signs up cheering you on. It means the world to you that they're there. What can you smell on stage? What can you smell in the air of just being right there in the thick of it? You've just been welcomed to stage in front of tens of thousands of people, leading a movement, the message that's on your heart to share with so many, right? What can you feel tangibly? Feeling the microphone in your hand, feeling the nervous excitement in the palms of your hand, just bring that forward. And I ask you to take another step closer, closer to the front of the stage, closer to the center where you can see and feel everyone around you. The vision is amplified. Breathe that in. That this moment is a culmination of all of your work, all of the years you've been putting it in, moments of gratitude and struggle and questioning has led you to this defining moment of your career where you are now reciprocated, celebrated, acknowledged for your heart work that you do. That every struggle, everything that you've triumphed through, every pathway that you have blazed a trail through, every challenge that you've turned into a success story, every trauma into the triumph. Just allow the feeling of this particular moment to wash over your entire body. These people, as you look out on the crowd, they're here for you. And just as you're seeing this and feeling into this and hearing the sensations and smelling the sense of this stage, I just want you to take a couple of deep breaths in, allowing your stomach to expand. With each inhale, we're just going to breathe the vision deeper into your core. In through the nose, just allowing the vision to settle, to grow in your energetic body. And when you're ready, I'm going to get you to open your eyes and then share anything that you're feeling at this moment.
For me personally, I just experienced like a whole bunch of goosebumps, like all over my body. And just like I could hear like the crowd, I could like see the lights in my face
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
the people that were there with me. Yeah, I know it's done. Like for me, it's there. And like you said, now it's about a matter of just like the action steps that guide you to get to that point along the way. That's how I feel.
Does it feel a bit closer than what it did before?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you guys are watching the video at home, often when we're talking about our dreams, if you place your arm in front of you, sometimes we talk about our goals like they're so out here and they're so far away. And
Mm.
so the purpose of this little exercise, even though it was a few minutes, is just pulling the vision from the future. Because so often we talk about it as I'm going to, I'm going to, I want it. I want it is always a state outside of yourself. And so this just compels us to pull the vision from the future into the now. And so
Mm.
you saying it's already done and I can be right there is like feeling that in this moment.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, for sure. I just got soul bumps. Like for me, I was like there. I could see my skin, like, and that's like literally what I felt coming out of that. I was like, yeah, it's done. I know it's done.
Yeah. And it's so funny because when you're describing it to me, I'm thinking, okay, well, with a couple 100,000 people, well, there's a few different places that can happen. a World Cup, Olympics, Tomorrowland, which has 170,000 people in Europe,
Hmm.
right? So like imagine doing your positivity message to 150,000 ravers in
Yeah.
Belgium.
That's so funny because like I love raving and I really want to go
Yeah.
to Tomorrowland. So there you go.
Me too. It's on my bucket list. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
for sure. Thank you. That was amazing.
my pleasure. Yeah. So for people listening at home, they can do that by envisioning all of the senses around something that they feel that they want in their future, but it feels so out of reach, and just spending time visualizing it and getting connected to the five senses, which I love. That's awesome. I love that you can see yourself there already.
Mhm. Yeah, that was really cool. Then I guess my next question is, as I grow in business personally, but I know there'll be also a lot of established business owners listening to this too. So, what would be your advice for people listening who maybe have been in that grind of like living to work, who are
Hmm.
very much in their business and don't take days off and maybe are feeling run down, and this is then affecting like their work-life balance. They are affecting other areas of their life. So I'd love to hear your perspective or your advice for people that are at that level.
Yeah. So you're at the sort of other end of the startup phase now. Can we make this practical for your
Mm.
business? Like, can we
Of
talk about it in
course,
relation
yeah.
to yours? So tell me about some of the challenges, roadblocks, or glass ceilings you're rubbing up against right now.
Yeah, well, for me, it was definitely about like scaling my time. Like,
Yep.
I offer at the moment one-on-one mentorship, and
Yep. Of
one-on-one can only go so far because it is a
course.
lot of energy that I have to show up with on my side of things.
Yep.
And it's a lot of organizing to meet people face to face or via Zoom. So
Hmm.
that's like a big chunk of my time. Then also making sure I've got my podcast running and my like content to also make sure that new leads are coming in too. And then
Yep.
that thing of like, okay, well, when I'm doing all those things, where is my time to be creating the new stuff? Like I want to do my group coachings this year, events.
Hmm.
I'm also got some other projects in the work. So
Of
it's like
course.
all of these things, then navigating like dating life,
Hmm.
navigating friendship,
Yep.
navigating like I'm also moving house. So it's like, holy
Cool.
shit, nothing's
Yep.
grounded right now. I'm
Got it.
also like how to have time for your health and your like routines that give you joy. So that's the experience that I'm feeling right now, how to balance it all when you're growing.
Awesome. Yeah. So balance is a complete illusion because
Mm.
we never really have it. If you sign up for entrepreneurship, you never have balance. Not really. That's not what you signed up for. If you wanted the balance, you would go work for somebody else because you could switch off. Right? So,
Yeah.
let's make it really practical and valuable for you. So, if you think about all these different things that you said, so dating life, moving, you got your podcast project, you want to run events, a group, one on one. Out of all those things, because you're juggling a bunch of stuff, what are the things in your business that you don't enjoy? And you can't tell me that you enjoy it all.
Well, there's definitely things that I've started to delegate. I've hired recently a virtual assistant who's
Cool.
helping me post my social media on other platforms. So at the moment, I
Sweet.
create the content, I edit the content, I write the captions, then she just posts it on everything else. So I don't have to worry about posting on Instagram and all the other platforms. I just post on
Hmm.
Instagram and she posts everywhere else. So that takes a lot of like the difficultiness or like the
Yep.
stress away from me. So that's nice. I enjoy editing, but I don't
Yep.
enjoy editing when I have to do it. Like, for example, this podcast today, like going back and then going through the whole thing to find like three short clips to post a reel, like that is, I feel so much energy and effort that I could be using on creating new stuff.
Cool. So I'm going to tell you right now that it's going to cost you like $30 per podcast episode to get it edited and published.
Yeah. So currently I have someone doing
Okay.
that for me.
Amazing. Okay. So if we then think of like, I want this to be super valuable because then actually
Yeah.
how we think about systems and like this conversation, people can apply as well. Because what we're really looking at for Elise, guys, if you're listening, is synthesizing all of these different pulls on her time, right? And the reality is that she's only one person. She can't do it all, right? And she would actually burn herself out. And she wouldn't be authentic and congruent to high performance if she was to do that. So, describe to me, ideally, how would you actually like your day to be structured?
I love this question because I just realized what I did then. Oh, I want to be traveling and meeting new people and having amazing conversations,
Hmm.
exercising, being in nature, sharing what I'm learning
Yeah.
in various points, meditation, creating in some sort of way.
Hmm.
That's what brings me joy.
Okay. So, guys, for those listening at home, you just painted a really beautiful picture, right? Elise just gave you an insight into how she would spend her day. At no point did she specifically say that she was coaching people one on one. So, for me, this is really beautiful because it actually highlights the vision of where Elise can take her business. Because maybe underneath all of this, your freedom comes through running events and maybe not even doing one on one at all,
Mm.
possibly, right?
Yeah.
Because you could get paid, and if you got paid as much or more, sometimes we think we do one on one because it's the one that pays us the most. But actually, if you engineer your business so that you get paid more from group or speaking, then you have to really question like, would you do one on one? And
Mm.
so, what I was really listening in for what Elise said here is traveling, meeting new people, having new conversations, and exercising. So, the first part of her day, I would look at structuring it in a way that allows you to capitalize on your energy. And so, the morning is like for you, right? Maybe at the moment, what you have is you've got coaching calls in the morning that detracts from your high level energy that needs to be poured into the
Mm.
creative side.
Yeah.
So for me, I don't have coaching calls until after 12 p.m. because the morning's
Mhm.
for me, as an example. Is that making sense?
Yeah, this is absolutely perfect. Yeah.
Cool. So actually what ends up happening is you get to teach your clients twofold, like two things in this. One is you teach them how to be high performing by you structuring your day in a way that brings you even more energy than you've got right now.
Mhm. Yeah.
So in the morning, it's like, cool, I'm going to go train and I'm going to go meet some new people and I'm going to go have coffee at a different place around London, maybe. And if traveling is it, because you can record the podcasts in different cities or around Europe, you can jump on a plane for like an hour and be anywhere, then maybe it's like every month or every 6 weeks, you're actually in a different
Mm.
city on a weekend
Yeah.
because you can do that where you are.
Yeah.
And then you said sharing what you're learning. And so for me, I would explore what sharing what you're learning is because that could be your creative side, your podcasting. It
Yeah.
could also be your course material, or your mastermind.
Yeah.
And I think in what you're saying as well, if you're high performance, maybe your evolution from here too, in terms of growing and also like restructuring some of your offers, could also be you're attracting higher level clients who aren't looking for the basic shit about how to be performant, like productivity, because they can Google that shit.
Yeah.
And instead, they pay you to be in a mastermind about how they can lead their life and how they can think differently about performance.
Hmm.
And then you can share, but it's not as taxing and it's not as draining, perhaps sometimes, as just having those one on one calls. Because
Yeah.
then you're not talking about the same stuff. And actually, here's the cool thing about it. In the mastermind at that level, your mastermind is worth more than one on one coaching with you.
Mm.
Because when they're paying for one on one coaching, they only get you and their brain. In a mastermind, if it's done well, you have multiple brains solving a really valuable problem.
Hmm.
And the community aspect actually becomes more valuable.
Yeah.
The mastermind is then infinitely more scalable than your one-on-ones. And if you choose to have one-on-ones, someone's paying you $25,000 a year to work with you because your time's valuable and their time's valuable.
Yeah, 100%. And it's interesting when you ask me what my ideal day looks like. It was more definitely no focus on one-on-one, only like specific people,
Mhm.
and everything else was one to many. So groups, events.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And probably the biggest growth is working out.
Yay. Thank you.
It's my pleasure. I think the biggest growth then, because I navigated that transition from like moving clients from a one-on-one capacity into like a mastermind, is working out who those people are who are paying to work with you, not from a hand holding. Like, I think there's a distinction here between, say, direct coaching and then mentoring.
Mm.
Coaching sometimes requires the how to bit. And so sometimes people can be drained with the coaching side of things. I'm not saying that's you, but some people can be. Mentoring is saying, I respect Elise's time. I respect my time. So I'm not going to come to a call and bitch, moan, and complain or whinge about why my life sucks and why this shit isn't working. I'm going to resolve some of that. And if I get stuck, I'm going to come to Elise with, hey, here's where I've got a problem. Here's a couple of different solutions and ideas. What do you think?
Mm.
Completely different dynamic, right? Completely different energy.
Yeah, for sure.
So
Definitely.
yeah, and then you can charge a lot more for one-on-one.
Okay, this is another thing that I think would be really helpful to ask, just because I'm curious about it. So I know if I'm curious about it, then the listeners will be too, especially as like an entrepreneur. How do you decide like what you would then charge for a service such as mentorship coaching practices like this? Because for me, like I remember when I was personal training,
Uh-huh.
like I would be charging so cheap, but back then, like
Mhm.
I was like, oh, during COVID, I'll charge really cheap because I want to be a good person and I don't want anyone to think that I'm like not, so I'll charge cheap.
Uh-huh.
And then everyone started showing up to my home garage in their Teslas and their Porsche
Yeah.
GTs, and I was like,
Yeah.
fuck, I just
Yeah.
really screwed myself over here. So what would be your advice for people that are like, oh, I don't know what to charge, or I don't want to be too much or too little. I don't want to screw myself over, but I also want to live this type of lifestyle. What would be your advice for people going through that? Because I honestly myself experience that sometimes where I'm like,
Yeah.
whoa, asking for what I want can feel like a stretch.
Awesome. Can we use you as an example again?
Go for it.
Okay. So, guys, I'm using Elise because it takes a conceptual thing into reality. And so for those listening, you can actually hear the difference in Elise's language as well. So like even with just that slight correction about how she'd spend her day, she told me something completely different. And so we sell ourselves short sometimes because we don't give ourselves that permission slip. So Elise, tell me a little bit about like what are you navigating? Give me something to work with in terms of a price or where you're thinking about maybe you're restructuring an offer.
Hmm. Um, well, I guess what is this worth? Like, more so about what I think it's worth or what I other people perceive it to be worth. Then it's like with my one-on-one coachings, it's like, am I asking for too much? Am I asking for
Cool.
too little? And is this a problem with me feeling unworthy in sales? Like that
Yeah.
is the beliefs that come up around that. So yeah.
Yeah. Which one do you want to solve? Like, let's solve it. Then everyone gets something for themselves around their business. So,
Yes. Okay. But the beliefs that like I don't want to charge too much.
okay. In
It's
what
like the
offer?
fear of asking for what I want. For probably one-on-one.
Okay, cool. So tell me about what is the offer at the moment.
The offer at the moment is 8 to 12 weeks. It
Cool.
depends. Like for each individual person, I
Yep.
will pitch them what they need what they can work with. So I'm very accommodating. I think for me, like I am accommodating depending on like the person, like you mentioned at the start, like how you've given away big coaching offers to people for free or for a cheaper cost.
So you're hitting on something really powerful that
Yeah,
I want everyone to get. It's never
good.
for free. It's never for free. There's an investment in their time for them to show up. And here's what I leave them with. There is always the invitation. So just because it's free, some people can choose to never, ever, ever show up for the free thing. For the person who shows up for themselves, I know the promise is that there is a transformation for them, which is very different to me, who I would then go back and say with my early offers, I would people please, right?
Yeah.
So there's two things here is you're wanting to grow and scale right now. So growing and scaling, you're actually going to grow faster by having an offer that you can clearly communicate and it's the same thing. The
Yeah.
coaching is tailored, but it allows you to communicate clearer because you know exactly what it is inside out, left to right, left and right, back to front. And so when you're talking to somebody, it's like, cool, working with me is 12 weeks. This is what
Mm.
it includes.
Yeah.
Okay. It's designed to help solve exactly their problem. And based on you sharing from that place, which is really, really freaking integral and
Hmm.
feels so congruent and so good for you, then they're like, yep, sweet, I want it or I don't.
Yeah.
And that gives you room to scale. Because if you customize every offer, the challenge is that whilst it's just you, it's really hard to manage because every client, then there's a different level of engagement. Just like one client is like more high touch and the other person is less, and this other person's not
Mm.
paying me enough. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So the offer that is usually like my standard is 6,000 Australian for 12 weeks. And then
Yep.
there's payment plans for people that I'm like, okay, people please, right? It is that whole
Uh-huh.
people pleasing thing of like, I want to help them. I don't want them to feel like they can't invest in this. I know that they want to. And
Okay.
the belief that comes up that I think when you speak about this is I know what I ultimately want to charge for one-on-ones, and
Hmm.
it's the belief of like, am I too young to charge that?
Okay. Cool. Awesome. Well, we're going to bust that in a moment. Okay. So I'm
Great.
going to ask you some more questions. So one-on-one
Cool.
coaching, 12 weeks, 6K AUD. All right. So tell me about what do they get?
What do they get? Well, with the 12 weeks, you'd get 1 hour to 90-minute calls with me every single week.
Mhm.
You get
Yep.
access to me on WhatsApp for Monday to Friday, basically 24/7. Then you
Okay.
also get literally like tasks and work that you get to have to do and accomplish after each call. Access to all my products on my website. So all my meditations, all my courses you get for free. And essentially, the transformation is what they usually set out and intend for at the start, which the common theme for most people is to release stress and feel more fulfilled in their life. So we
Hmm.
have a three-phase framework, which is based off releasing past traumas, past limiting beliefs, past programs, anger, sadness, fear, guilt, a lot of hypnosis, breath
Hmm.
work, somatic work to release old ways of being or old things that you're holding on to that are stopping
Yep.
you from being a high performer. So the next thing would be rewiring the brain, habits, and getting into new routines, new challenges that bring you out of the comfort zone into a growth mindset. And then that third phase is all about remember your soul mission, remember who you are, tune into your instincts, your intuition, so that you start to learn your abilities and your
Mhm.
sensitivities to energy, how to create your reality and be the right person at the right place at the right time.
Awesome. Beautiful. So release, rewire, remember.
Mhm.
They work with you for 60 to 90 minutes each week, access on WhatsApp, get access to all your products and courses for that period of time. Now, what has been the most epic transformation that you've witnessed in clients over those periods of time?
Everyone has been fairly different. The first one that comes to my mind is when I worked with one of the guys that is a professional footballer,
Mhm.
and he went from being very injured to then coming back, getting best on ground one match, the match after kicking a goal, and the match after getting picked to play for England. And it was all
Beautiful.
everything just clicked. And I was like, holy shit, like that was so cool. Then
Awesome.
the second one would be one of my beautiful clients, Rani. She like went from experiencing really painful like endometriosis, being in a job that was half fulfilling her, workaholic, very in her masculine, to then moving states, leaving her job, starting a new business, at like not experiencing endometriosis anymore, and being a really successful mindset coach. That I think is also a really cool transformation that I've come across as well.
Okay. So, for those listening at home, right? So, Lisa now described the results that people are getting with her from working with her for 3 months. Okay. So, now just consider this as well, that if you can do profound things such as give people a new lease on life, right? See themselves differently, do in 3 months what 3 years of therapy would have done. You know, for some people, they've sat on the couches, they intellectually understand all their problems, nothing changes,
Mm,
and you're dealing with trauma and stuff that has been stored in people's bodies for decades
mm.
for them to have a new lease on life. Is that worth more than $6,000?
Fuck yeah, it is.
Okay, cool. So now here's the beautiful thing, guys. For those listening at home, you can hear in Elise's voice, actually, her price goes up because of the resonance in her voice. Straight away, it was immediate body yes. There was no hesitation. She knows the value of her work,
Mm,
right? So here's the really cool thing is with that resonance, it's like, okay, cool. This is the investment and the value is cool. You can go and try to figure this out on YouTube and you can go and try to do the self hypnosis or do a hypno on the weekend and a breath work and a this and a that and piece it all together and spend the next 3 years of your life trying to figure this out on your own. Or you and I can deal with it in 3 months
mm,
and it be done and dealt with so that in 12 months' time, your life looks vastly different to what it does now.
mhm.
Okay. Feel good?
Oh yeah, yeah, 100%. And it's like one of my closest friends now, Adam, like he'll be comfortable with me telling this because I remember when we
Yep.
first came to London, I was here with him involved in like the Ashes series for cricket, right? He was here and I was like, Adam, like you're telling everyone I'm a mindset coach, but like I want you to experience what I do so you actually deep down in your heart know. So you can tell people from your heart. And he was like, yeah, whatever, whatever, right?
Uh-huh.
He's a lot older. He's in that like very much that generation that don't really do this sort of stuff, right? They consider it
Yep.
woo. And I was like, come on, like we're going to do it. 3 months later, he finally did a session with me. And his words were literally, Elise, I've been doing like seeing therapists for 40 years. In
Uh-huh.
40 minutes, you had me crying, like 40
Okay.
minutes. And he just
Awesome.
went and told everyone about like this experience that we did together. And it was really simple. It was just one session. And that has then changed the way he does things now to like come from this high performing place. So yeah, like that is really special to me.
I love that. Okay. So what's the amount that you would actually like to charge for this then?
Yeah, and then that's like where the fear comes up within me
Sure.
because I'm like, oh, I don't even know. Like, I don't, I know it's It's like that thing, what is reasonable? Yeah.
Yeah,
This
so
is
so
great.
now cool. So now what Elise is rubbing up against, for those if they're watching the video, you
Mm,
can see it in her body language, but if you're listening, you can hear it in her voice. And what it is what I perceive this is worth versus the value. Because if we think of it, actually we project our own limitations onto the value of what we offer.
mm,
And if we do that, we're always going to charge less than what it's actually valued at. So now we have to try to tangibly add value to the things that we're offering. So if you solve someone's trauma, like literally if you were to sit in therapy and you were to go maybe once a fortnight in Australia, it might cost you $200 a session. So there's 26 weeks in a year. It's going to be $5,200.
mm.
So $5,200 per year. Okay, so you sit on a therapist couch for 4 years, it's going to cost you $20,000. And you might still not be any further along than when you start. So now what people actually get is they get their time back and their life back by working with you for 3 months. You get that?
Hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So really easy way, we just get to test this on an energetic level. Elise, if you charge $20,000 for 3 months of someone working with you, how does that feel in your body?
That was the answer that I wanted to say, but I was scared too.
Okay, great. Well, I just came up with
Yeah.
that. Fantastic. There's your
Mm.
price.
Yeah.
Did that feel
Yay.
good in your body?
Yeah, it feels exciting. It feels like,
Cool. Great. So then here's what happens now is energetically your posturing now gets to be around this 20K level because it's the value. And you got to think about it not in terms of time, but the value you deliver. Because
mm,
if someone works with you for 3 months, it means that you save them time in the future and you save them money in the future of dealing with it.
mm,
And you save them all the time and money that they would do figuring it out on their
mm.
own. And what this can do for you as well, which is magical, I love this, is that it plays into your ideal day.
Yeah.
Because if you think about this now, say you charge 20K for 3 months of working with you, okay, then it's like 5K upfront, 5K a month for 3 months, right? Really easy, simple payment plan. If you can offer a nice discount if they wanted to pay in full,
Mm,
$17,500, they want to pay you in full.
hmm.
Great. And then in this process, what it does is it means now you get one client who is worth three and a half one-on-ones.
Mm,
And so you have more time, you have more energy, you have the same amount of money, and then that pays for you to do all the other stuff that you would like to do in your life, like create the
yeah.
courses, the other stuff, and it helps you move into high performance. Because
Yeah.
if you start coaching more people on high performance, the professional footballer, guess what? He values his time more than anything.
Yeah.
So you are going to save him time, and that's
Yeah.
worth 20K.
Yeah. Wow. Beautiful. Thank you. How would I then structure, do you think, my groups containers, that type of thing?
However, it fits into your lifestyle.
Yeah. Okay.
Often people create their programs because of what they've seen other coaches or people do.
Mm,
But Elise, it's your business. So it's your rules.
yeah.
You can create it however you like. I know people who run masterminds with no Zoom calls.
Hmm.
They have a little Voxer chat, they drop an audio in there. I know people who run courses and they just send emails because they don't want to do Zoom calls.
Yeah.
You can choose to do it how you like.
I love this. Yeah, this has been so helpful. And I know, like, with the listeners that are tuning in today, would be able to take a lot from just the process that we've gone through. Why do you think that, like, I know for me personally, but I know that there'll be many people experiencing this, of like this mindset of like, I don't want to charge too much, or like, why is there such these like limitations that come up when you're in business? That's what I'm curious about.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of factors. For example, there's a documentary, I think, on Prime about very wealthy kids and how they
Mhm.
turned out. I think it's called Generation Wealth, right? And so they
Okay.
interview all of these wealthy kids. But here's the thing, the kids who grew up with friends having the Ferraris and the Rolls Royces, they did not know any better. So that's their reality. That's all that they expected. And so they felt like they didn't have enough because they only had one Ferrari and their neighbors had three. Or they had a 5-bedroom place and their neighbors had 7 bedrooms, you know? So it's all contextual. I think often the other reason why we really struggle to charge our worth is because sometimes we come from working a 9 to 5 and we're programmed, or our parents did, right? So we're used to earning a dollar amount per hour.
Mm.
So you came from PT world where you got paid
Yeah.
often per session or
Yeah.
per hour. And that warps our idea then of how much our time is worth,
Mm.
right? Because now we have a bias towards how much our time is worth when what we actually just spoke about is the value you're providing,
Mm.
the time you're saving, and that's the investment, not your time in terms of hours spent.
Yeah. Wow.
So I think,
So powerful. Yeah, the whole thing about like the PT world, I think that's definitely been a huge influence on me and like the way that I've charged in the past. So yeah, even today, like huge breakthrough for myself. And I'm so grateful, Ryan. Like, thank you so much.
my
Um,
pleasure.
yeah, life changing. This episode is amazing. And I want to be mindful of your time as well. So I am going to ask you one last question for
Of
today.
course.
Okay. Before I do that, though, where can my listeners find you if they want to connect with you? They want to be like, oh my God, that was so cool. Like, where can they find you?
Shoot me a message on all social platforms at It's Ryan Drake. So ITS Ryan Drake. Yeah, I'm pretty responsive on Instagram, Facebook. I love Twitter. Twitter's like my favorite social platform. So you can find me anywhere.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'll put all the links in the show notes. And last question for today, Ryan, is to tune into whatever comes to your mind, your heart first.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to sense the energy of the collective right now and the listeners that are in on this episode, what would be the number one piece of advice that you'd have for them?
Yeah. So the piece of advice I would give you is moving when you have faith. Faith is knowing that things are working for your good, even if you can't tangibly see it. And so, whatever in your life, often we want to see it to then believe it. And in this case, faith is saying, believe it and then you'll see it. So, believe that whatever you're wanting to create, even though you can't see more than a step in front of you and you don't know the full path, you don't know the how, it's taking action and trusting that that still small voice, your spirit's going to guide and speak to you. It's going to send people into your life like it did for, Elise and I through our beautiful friend Olivia. That, like, what if you walked away from listening to this with the belief that the universe is conspiring for you? And the fact that you exist here today and are able to listen to this means that you are a walking, talking miracle, because some people this morning did not wake up. And the fact that you have breath in your lungs, hands, eyes to see, ears to hear, lips to kiss and hold and speak a message, and that you have a candy bar, chocolate bar sized device in the palm of your hand that allows you to reach billions and billions of people with a message, means that you actually have everything that you need to put your message out into the world, to launch your business, to go after everything that you want. That there is more money being printed today than ever before. And that if you believe that you're a walking, talking miracle, then things can happen for you. As having faith to just step out and continue to stack that evidence in your reality and put those building blocks together and make that $100,000 as fast as you can. Go
Thank
for
you
it.
so much, Ryan, for today. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on my show. And
My
like I said,
pleasure.
I'll put all your details in the show notes so everyone can
Cool.
connect with you. But yeah, have a amazing day, everyone, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being a part of the Generation Elevation community. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to leave a 5-star rating, written review, share, and tag me on Instagram at elise.riley. Until next time, keep loving, keep learning, and keep rising.